You could double your salary tomorrow and, 5 years from now, feel exactly as far from wealthy as you do today. Not because you would waste the money, because of a ceiling built into the paycheck itself, hidden in plain sight. Here is one number that builds it. The money you work for is taxed as high as 37%. The money your assets earn, only 20%. Take Daniel. 2 raises in 2 years, doing everything right, and quietly stuck. He is a stand-in, not a real person, for a feeling a lot of us know. So, here is the question this whole video answers. What does a payslip physically cap that a wealthy person's income doesn't? First, let's take the shame off the table. This is not a discipline problem. Daniel isn't lazy, and he isn't bad with money. The limit is structural. It's built into how a salary works, before Daniel spends a cent. By the end, you'll see the 3 walls that build that limit, and the one quiet move that steps outside them. Picture every salary as a room with a ceiling. A raise doesn't remove the ceiling. It just lifts you a little closer to it. 3 things build that ceiling: your hours, the tax on every raise, and the lifestyle that fills the new space. One at a time. Wall 1 is hours. A salary is really just time multiplied by a rate, and time has a hard cap. A full-time year is about 2,080 hours. 40 hours, 52 weeks. That's the whole tank. You can push the rate up, but the hours barely move. There are only so many in a life. And zoom out, it's worse than it feels. Real wages have barely risen in decades, with most of the gains landing at the very top. So the first wall is time itself. The second wall is one Daniel never sees, because it's taken before he does. Wall 2 is tax, the gap we saw at the very start. And the top of every raise is taxed the hardest. In the United States, the top federal rate on ordinary earned income is 37%. And before Daniel sees a cent, payroll tax takes 7.65% right off the top. 6.2% for Social Security, 1.45% for Medicare, withheld at the source. Now compare that to income from owning things. Long-term gains and qualified dividends are taxed at 0, 15, or 20%. And only when you sell, which means the owner chooses when. Same dollar. One is earned by your hours and taxed high and now. The other is earned by what you own, taxed lower, and only when you decide. Sit with that gap, because even the money that survives the tax meets a third wall. Wall 3 is lifestyle. Whatever space the raise opens up, spending quietly moves in to fill it. This one is a documented pattern, not a moral failing. When income rises, spending tends to rise right alongside it, often just as fast. Daniel's raise became a nicer car, a bigger apartment, a few more subscriptions. Nothing reckless. The room just filled back up. If this is already reframing how you see your own paycheck, subscribe. We're about to reach the part that actually changes the picture. So hours cap the salary, tax shaves it, and lifestyle fills it. Which brings us back to the question: what does the wealthy person's income not have? Here's the part hidden in plain sight. The wealthy mostly stop trying to raise the ceiling. Instead, they convert earned income into owned assets. Things that produce income without their hours attached. Conceptually, 3 buckets: a business, broad ownership of many companies at once, and property. And ownership is concentrated. The top 1% own about half of all corporate equities and fund shares. The top 10% own roughly 87%. For most families, wealth is mostly the home. At the top, it's business and financial assets. About half of the highest-earning families own a private business, versus around a fifth overall. That's the real split. A typical household's income leans on what they do. Wealthy income leans on what they own. So the salary was never the trap. It's the raw material. It's the earned money you convert into something that earns on its own. Because owned income doesn't clock in. It doesn't stop when you sleep, and it isn't capped at 2,080 hours. Here's one quick illustration, not a prediction. Say Daniel takes $10,000 of after-tax money, spends it, and it's gone. Now say he'd moved it once into a broad index fund and left it alone. In this illustration, at a 7% historical average, over 30 years, it could have grown to roughly $76,000. Assumptions on screen. Not a promise, just the shape of the math. So look back at the ceiling. Daniel's 2 raises kept lifting him toward the exact same ceiling. Wealth was never a taller ceiling. It's owning the building the room sits in. Which finally answers the question. A payslip caps your hours. Owned assets don't clock in, so their income has no ceiling built in. And none of this means the salary is bad, it's the tool, not the destination. So here's the one thing to sit with today. Look at your own income and ask what share of it comes from your hours versus from something you own. If that reframe was useful, subscribe. It's the quiet shift most people never get shown. Because the ceiling was never the problem, not seeing it was.